everybody. Welcome to the Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money, pretty much everything under the sun that relates to crap. Cameron, we're starting over again. There we go. There we go. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money, pretty much everything under the sun that relates to you having a happier, healthier relationship with money. My name is Steve Sexton. I want to thank you for joining us. More importantly, I want to thank you for sharing us with your friends and family. We just exceeded 600,000 listeners, and we've expanded overseas. So this is going up to 54 countries now. So we're very excited and just want to thank you for sharing us with your friends and family. Now, we have one heck of a show. Yes, I'm going to continue my little session on inflation and what to do, because it looks like inflation's not going away. But you know what? One of the biggest things nowadays is, most of the people who are listening to the show are ages somewhere between 45 and 65. So they all have parents, and helping those parents with their finances, specifically things like Medicare, can be overwhelming because you don't know what to say. It's all consuming. And you know what? We've got the right person here. We have Stephanie Pogue. She does this exactly for her clients. She's been doing it for over 25 years in the Medicare industry. And, she can see what can happen. And when someone especially when somebody has the wrong plan. And it's really interesting because I've been in the finance business for 20 years, and I've worked with people. I've never done Medicare. I always push it off to somebody else like Stephanie, who really knows what's going on, because you really need somebody that's highly educated, because all too often people don't realize that they could have had benefits if they knew about them. And I've seen people pay out extraordinary amounts of money out of their pocket when they really didn't understand what they're getting into, because they just didn't have somebody really help them get clear about it. So, you know what? Stephanie's here. First of all, let me tell you a little bit more about Stephanie. And besides that, say hello, Stephanie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm just a little excited today because this is a very, very important topic. First of all, besides being highly experienced, Stephanie is a certified Medicare insurance planner. She serves as the CEO and a founder of the St. Louis Insurance Group, and is known for her expertise in navigating and simplifying Medicare insurance plans. She helps clients find the right Medicare plan year after year through her confusion to clarity, which is always really cool. And it's a great approach. She believes Medicare doesn't have to be hard. You just need somebody in your corner who can clearly explain it. Now, that said, the big question here that we want to start out with is, why should we talk to our parents about Medicare insurance, and what do we need to know to have a successful conversation?
Yes. And, because you probably think my parents are, 65, and 65 is not old, right? They're handling their finances and their insurance on their own. Why would I want to be involved in that? Why would I want to talk to them about that? The reality is Medicare is complicated. Medicare is confusing, and anyone over 65 is being bombarded with advertisements. You get mailers. People will bring in stacks of mail and say, is any of this important? Right? They're getting 5 to 6 phone calls a day trying to get them to change plans. And the TV commercials, I don't know if you've ever had the TV playing in the background, the TV commercials are obnoxious. They did some study recently, I think it was Kaiser, and on an average episode of Dr. Phil, there were eight Medicare Advantage commercials in a 1-hour episode. So our seniors are being bombarded with this, and they don't know where to turn for help. So
I actually totally agree with that, because most people go from having a health insurance plan through their employer. And quite frankly, most people don't know what they have. They just really know about the copays. But when they move off onto their own and they're selecting something, all too often, people select the cheapest plan or the one that their company had without knowing what's really in the guts of that plan. And that could be detrimental. So the big question you just answered is really, why should we be involved? I really like to have you, why should we start? How do we go about starting this conversation with, mom and dad? Because you know what, my folks are 87. And you know what, we have this conversation. My dad just had a knee replacement. And before that, we had that conversation about, hey, how is this going to be covered? What's going to happen? What's the therapy like? Are they going to be able to cover the therapy? What's the drugs, all that, what's post and so on. And he's got a wonderful plan and it's all, covered, but that's not the case for everybody.
Yes. And chances are, if you asked him what's going to happen, how is this going to be covered, he probably didn't know, because most people don't know how it works. And so I think, this is not about you as the child stepping in and taking over necessarily. It's just about you both being educated on what will happen. And it's making your parents feel more comfortable that you are also on board with the plan that they have. You know what will happen if they need it. And so I think one of the easiest ways to start the conversation is to say, I heard something about Medicare the other day and it sounds really complicated. What do you and dad have? Just open up the conversation. The other things, yeah, I mean, that's the way to start. And then they're going to tell you either, I don't know, or I don't know, here's my card, and you can go from there.
Okay. Now, one of the big things is there's original Medicare, Medicare Advantage, you have supplements. This is a real big thing because a lot of people don't understand this, and they don't understand how the supplements work. Some people who really do love the supplements and the ability to do the things they can do, but they just don't have a clue. Could you kind of like break that down just a little bit for everybody?
Yes, and this is the hardest part. People think once I'm 65, I'm on Medicare, I'm set. I'm good, I don't have to do anything else. But original Medicare on its own, this is part A and B, is good, but it has gaps, right? So you have part A covers anything in the hospital. And there's usually, this year, it's a $1,600 deductible every time you go into the hospital. And on your part B, which is everything outpatient, doctor visits, outpatient surgeries, chemo treatments, all of that, Medicare would pay 80% and you would be responsible for 20. And there's no limit on that. So people that have Medicare only are really leaving themselves open. They have a lot of exposure that they don't really need. So your options to go along with Medicare are either a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medicare supplement. Okay, on the one hand, with the Medicare supplement, you're paying a premium each month. And that's in addition to what you're paying for Part B. But you're paying a premium each month, and then you shouldn't have any copays, maybe a very small deductible, but no other copays or medical expenses on that plan. It pays the 20% for you. It pays the hospital deductibles. You're paying the premium for them to pay everything else. With the supplements also, you can go to any doctor, any hospital, anyone who takes Medicare will take your Medicare supplement. Now, sometimes people don't like that plan because it can get very expensive. And then everything's separate. It doesn't include your dental. It doesn't include prescriptions. Everything is separate. But that is one option. Your other option is a Medicare Advantage plan. The Medicare Advantage plans, you're not paying any additional premium, or it's very little each month. Instead, you're going to pay copays and coinsurance up to a maximum. And the maximum depends on the plan that you choose. This is the
Stephanie,
one where you...
I'm sorry to do this. Can we take a quick break? I've got, let's continue. Okay. So I'm sorry, just mental break there. Well, why don't we do this? Let's see, Cameron, why don't we just take a break short, and you can add a commercial in, and we'll go from there. Okay, so hey, everybody, stick with us. We'll be right back with more Saving with Steve and Stephanie Pogue. Okay. I hate that when that happens.
Maybe we can start back that Medicare Advantage spot. That'll be a clean break.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Okay. Okay, so what were they wanting? Okay, so here we go. Cameron, we're going to move into segment number 2 with Stephanie. And so let's see. Not done. Okay, so here we go. I got the recording on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show, where I truly want to thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you watching our show, listening to our show. All the replays are available here at savingwithsteve.us. If you're enjoying the stories of helpful information and insight on Saving with Steve, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can check out every single show. And please check out our affiliates at UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, Talk Radio UX, Talk Radio U. Cameron, you're going to have to edit that one out. I got a new syndicator. So, okay, here we go. UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, Talk Radio, New York City, E360 TV, Las Vegas TV networks. All these networks are dedicated to empowering you to solve problems, uplift your spirit, live a life of financial freedom. Now, you can also check us out, Saving with Steve Sexton, on our Facebook page. If you want to go sign up for the Saving with Steve Sexton Club, you can get behind the stuff, behind the scenes, and see how I mess up all the time, which is a lot of fun. And sometimes we see a cat or a baby on the screen, which is always fun as well. With that, we're going to bring back Stephanie Pogue, and we're going to be talking about Medicare. Now, again, we're talking about original Medicare. Stephanie was telling us, hey, look, if you have Medicare Part A and B, you're looking at it on an 80-20 basis. And then you're paying for original and Medicare, which is a little more expensive. Some people might not want to pay for that, but there's some benefits there that people might want to pay for, because you talked about being able to pick and choose your doctor, providing they accept Medicare. And you typically have a copay. You might have some coinsurance depending on how it's structured. But let's delve into that just a little bit more. Because with original Medicare, you can pretty much pick and choose your doctor, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The original Medicare, you can choose.
And if you have a supplement, you could end up paying just a copay or a small coinsurance, depending on how you have the supplement structured.
Yes, it's basic. It's more like traditional insurance, where you're paying a premium each month and the insurance company pays whatever Medicare doesn't.
Okay. So is there some really important things to know about getting a supplement? Because don't you have to have it done within a certain time when you leave your employer? Otherwise, you have to get underwritten, so to speak.
Yes. So you get a chance to enroll in a Medicare supplement when you're new to Part B of Medicare. You get a guaranteed issue period, if you will, where they're not going to ask you any questions 3 months after you get your Part B. You can choose any plan you want to. All your pre-existing conditions are covered and there are no health questions.
I like that.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And then what are the typical costs for the Medicare supplements?
So you're going to have to, you still pay for your Part B of Medicare. This year it's $164.90. You pay for that no matter what kind of plan you have. With a supplement, you're going to pay an additional premium. And it really depends on what county, what state you're in, and if you're male or female. They take all that into account. Here in the Midwest, you're looking at maybe $200 a month extra for a Medicare supplement policy.
Okay. And it's actually closer to about $350 out here in California. So that's great.
Yes.
Now, let's compare that to let's ask this question. If say you had a knee replacement and it didn't go well, and maybe the doctor put in the wrong, something just didn't go well. Do you have to go get an approval to get that redone?
Not with a supplement. There are no referrals, no prior authorizations, unless Medicare itself requires a prior authorization. But if you need to go to a different doctor or you need a second surgery, you just go and take care of that. You're covered.
Like that. That's like the old traditional indemnity plans that people used to have a long time ago that don't exist anymore. But that's wonderful. Now, let's talk about Medicare Advantage. Okay, so how does that work?
So they're very different plans. Neither one of them is good or bad necessarily. It's all about how you want to get your care and how you want to pay for your care. So a Medicare Advantage plan, you're paying very little premium, if anything, depending on where you are in the country. And instead, you're going to pay copays and coinsurance as you go. There's usually a maximum out of pocket that you'll pay. So there's a cap or a limit on your exposure. But these are the plans where you do sometimes have to have referrals. You stay in the network of doctors. It's a little bit more restrictive. It's managed care.
Mm-hmm. So if it's managed care, so if you have co-pays that go along with it, or do you have an extra copay if you're going to the hospital? Do you have an extra copay if you're going to the doctor or to the emergency room and things like that?
Yes, because you're not paying very much premium. They're charging you each time you go into the hospital or each time you have a surgery or see a specialist.
And on top of that, it has to get approved. That's the
Yes.
biggie. So
Yeah.
now we've got all that, but now let's talk about the big thing, prescriptions. Depending on this prescription plan, that can get quite expensive, or you might be restricted to certain types of prescriptions that you might have to use generics or so on. So how does that work?
Yes, prescriptions are a big deal. It comes up in the conversation all the time. With a supplement, you have to have a separate Part D plan, and you're gonna pay a premium for that, and then you still pay copays for prescriptions. On the Medicare Advantage plan, your Part D is included in the Advantage plan. You still pay copays. One of the important things, you want to make sure that you're on the right plan, first of all, because formularies between companies are dramatically different. You might be paying $0 for a prescription on this plan and $100 a month for the same prescription on another plan. So make sure you have the right plan. The other thing you can do is look at coupon sites like GoodRx. You know, if that's less expensive than your Part D plan, you can use coupons like that. Another good one is Cost Plus Drugs. It's that Mark Cuban company. A lot of my clients find a lot of savings on that plan. And it's outside of your Part D. You're not necessarily paying extra for it, but you might get a better cost on your prescriptions. The other thing there's a program, it's a federal program called Extra Help. It's, it's not Medicaid. Medicaid is a state program that pays for the medical side, but Extra Help is a federal program that pays for prescriptions, so that it brings your copays down dramatically. You do have to qualify. It's based on income, but the income limits are higher than Medicaid, so a lot more people qualify for it than they think.
Mhm.
And they are expanding this program in 2024. It was part of the Inflation Reduction Act. One of the things they did was expand the Extra Help program. So those are some ways that you can kind of save on prescriptions.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that a lot of people ask, and our viewers have been asking, is, okay, so what are the potential penalties and how do I avoid them? Because you never know there's a penalty until all of a sudden it hits you, especially with Medicaid or Medicare.
Yes. Yeah. So, and there are two big ones that I can think of. One is a late enrollment penalty. So you get Medicare at 65, you're entitled to Medicare at 65. You don't have to enroll, but if you are retiring and you do not have employer group coverage anymore, you need to enroll in Medicare. Otherwise, you'll pay a penalty. There will be certain times a year that you can sign up, and that penalty that you get will last forever. And it's the same with your Part D prescription plan. If you don't sign up when you're first eligible or when you first retire, you're going to pay a late enrollment penalty. The other one.
I want to already say that.
Yes.
If you fail to enroll in time, you're going to get a penalty, and that penalty will last you forever. And what is the typical penalty?
It's 10% of every year that you wait. And because of the timing of when you can apply, it's really easy to get stuck for a year without enrolling late. So 10% a year.
Wow. So that means if it's $164.90, you're actually going to have to pay an extra $16 or $17 just because you're late. Okay. So don't be late.
Forever. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, perfect. And what other penalties should people be aware of?
The other big one is IRMA. It's an income-related Medicare adjustment amount. So if it's basically a penalty for making too much money. If you have a higher income, you could pay more than $164.90 a month. And people don't realize that. And because it's based on your income from 2 years ago, it's based on your taxes from 2 years ago. If you're retiring now and you're on a lower Social Security amount, you're not working anymore, you could get hit with that penalty and not know what to do with it and not be be caught off guard about it.
Okay. So is there anything people can do to get that reduced? If, say, for example, they sell a house one year and they've got a capital gain that exceeds the IRMA?
Some things you can appeal. For instance, if you quit working and your income is lower. But it's based on your adjusted gross income. So if you did sell rental property, if you sold a house, if you had capital gains, you're going to have to pay that penalty for a year until it resets the following year.
Okay, a year's not too bad. I can live with that. Now, it's really very, very important that people find the right agent. So how do people go about doing that?
It is. And one of the things, when you're talking to your parents about it and you're talking about how confusing it is, ask them if they already have an agent. Because if they do, you want to be involved in their next annual review. All insurance agents should be doing an annual review with you. But a lot of people are just trying to figure it out on their own and they don't have an agent. And so if that's the case, there are a lot of really good agents out there. I would suggest looking for someone who has some experience, who specializes in Medicare. We all sell health and life and all the things, but you really want someone who specializes in Medicare. And then find someone who you trust and who will sit down with you and answer all of your questions, no matter how many times you ask, no matter, how many times you call, whatever it is. This is your healthcare, your money. You and your parents need to be confident in the plan that you're getting. So just someone that will answer all the questions for you.
I always say it's your life. Make sure you ask the questions. Um,
Absolutely.
Now, here's another thing. People are saying, what about people who just specialize with one carrier, like they're with Health Net or United Healthcare? Should you have somebody that has multiple different carriers as opposed to being pigeonholed into one?
Yes, that's so important. Thank you for mentioning that. If you're working with a broker who is only working with one company, then they are going to try to fit you into the plans that they offer. You want to work with an agent who offers multiple companies and multiple plans. And then that way they can really tailor it to what's important to you. What extra benefits are important? What doctors you want to use and what prescriptions you take.
That's perfect. Stephanie, I want to thank you for joining us today. This has been wonderful. If our listeners would like to get a hold of you or reach out to you, check out your website, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so I own the St. Louis Insurance Group and we have multiple agents across the country. But if you'd like to talk to me specifically, you can go to my website at stephaniepogue.com. It's Pogue is how you spell my last name. So stephaniepogue.com or 636-778-2999 is my office.
Perfect. Stephanie, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. You've enlightened our audience with wonderful information. I'm just very thankful, and I know they are too, because all the questions or all the things that you said are the questions that they had. So it was wonderful.
Yes.
So thank you again. And I wish you well. And I know you're going to get really busy soon because the whole season's just getting started up there.
It is. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Saving with Steve. We just had Stephanie Pogue. She was a wonderful Medicare specialist. She's the founder of the St. Louis Insurance Group. If you want to get information, they've got agents all over the country that could help you. More importantly, if you're looking for an agent, you want to make sure you have somebody who can represent multiple plans to find the best one for you. Understand the cost. What's going to be if you get a prescription, what it's going to be if you have a procedure, so you can understand what truly happens with you. And you know what? They can help you understand the ins and outs, especially if it's your folks. Okay. Now, with that, one of the things that you're seeing here is things are still going up. That means inflation is still rising. You saw the most recent report from the Consumer Price Index that it went from 3.3 to 3.7, and you're seeing things going higher because you're paying more at the pump. You're paying more at the shopping center, you're paying more on Amazon, you're paying more all over. And the reason being is the cost of goods being shipped, used for oil, gas, and so on is continuing to increase. And that's the big thing that's shifting. Because if we go back to July, those things were down anywhere from 18 to 36%. And you know what? With the reduction of oil production by OPEC, Russia being cut by 2.5 million barrels a day, and then just another million barrels a day, we're going to feel it at the pump and other places for a while. So how do we go about reworking our budget to make sure that we can keep maintaining our lifestyle? So this is very, very important. This is the time you want to start looking at all the cell phone bills, the phone bills. You know what? There's many carriers out there. They're all on the 5G stuff. You can find ones that have lower costs, that don't have the connections where you have to be there for 2 or 3 years. So you know what? Go look at the Mint Mobiles. Go look at all those different companies and see what could be lower cost for you. When it comes to your cable bill, you know what? Cut it down to the things that you need. If you've got multiple streaming sites and you're paying at $5, $10, $7, $12 a month, those subscriptions keep going up and up. So cut it down to the ones that you want. And as opposed to having cable, there's nothing wrong with having live TV, which is an app, along with your cable, as opposed to having the cable channels. By doing so, you could save as much as $100 or more per month. Next, looking at your utilities. How do we lower the cost of utilities? By reducing the amount of, the heat that's on in our house. Go from 72, from 75. You know what? If you're watering, it's supposed to watering once or twice a day, just water once a day for a longer period of time every other day. You're still going to be in a good spot there. Next, you want to look at how do we go about reducing our debt? Hey, have a plan to pay off your interest, the accounts you have in your credit card. Okay, or start working and transferring balances to cards that have less interest rates, or even consolidating your debt to an interest rate that's lower than what you have. You just got to make sure you got the spending issues taken care of. When it comes to driving, we're seeing gas prices go higher and higher. So how do we deal with that? Now, when we deal with that, it's important to take a look at, hey, what car are we driving? Are you driving a big old truck that gets 8, 9, 10, 12 miles to the gallon, and your wife's driving the Prius, but she's driving at 10 miles a day and you're going 60? Switch them out, reduce those costs. There's a person that we know that just got one of those new Toyota Corollas, but it's a hybrid. They're getting 52 miles to the gallon. Husband and wife switch cars. The wife drives the big car that gets 10 miles, 10 miles a day. Well, you know what? The husband's driving the hybrid, and he's driving 100. So it costs him 2 gallons of gas to go to and from work, as opposed to 5. That's a big savings. Next, when you're looking at the store, prepackaged items are expensive. So how can you buy the salad, the head of lettuce, the dressing, the nuts and all that separately, and make the salads, as opposed to buy a $5 per package salad every single day? You could save $40, $50 extra a month. Folks, every little bit counts. When it comes to going out, there's nothing wrong with hanging out with your friends, but maybe doing it at a park, or having what's called a gourmet group, where everybody brings one piece and you can have a nice meal with your friends at a lower cost. So there's a lot of ways to reduce and eliminate your expenses so you can keep up with inflation. The other thing that's most important with keeping up with inflation is this: making sure you're getting a reasonable rate of return on your investments. For example, if you've got money just sitting in a savings account or a checking account, and it's a lot of money and it's earning next to nothing, hey, you can get a money market account for almost 4 or 5% right now. A CD at 5.6%. Hey, inflation's at 3.7. At least it's keeping up with inflation, because if you're not making at least 3.7, you're in a situation where purchasing power is eating away at your asset, and you never want to have that happen, because that reduces your ability to spend and so on. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining us here with Saving with Steve. I hope he gave you some insights that are useful and beneficial. And I know you love Stephanie, because she was outstanding. With all our viewers at savingwithsteve.us, you can always email in there and say, hey, I want to hear about this. And a lot of you did when we put that out there, and I want to thank you for that. And with that, be safe, be healthy. We'll see you next time right here on Saving with Steve. Bye-bye.